Hey guys, it is Thursday again, and this week's topic on the channel is basically can we compare fairly between the rights that the LGBT community is going through today to fight for, like ethnic minorities and women have had to do in the past? And my answer to this complicated question is basically in some ways yes and some ways no. In ways yes is that a lot of times, like, Christians have gone through stuff in the Bible to try to interpret their ways of life. Like, if you read history books, like, for heaven's sakes, there were slave owners who used the Bible to justify having slaves because it said some passages in there how you should obey your master, and they would use it to justify that they should use slaves, and that they had the right to own them, and that the slaves should be obedient to them because the Bible says so. The Bible has been used and abused in many ways, not just towards gays. Like, you have to truly read the Bible in a different way to be able to interpret it, because, like, if you straight up read it literally, it is very confusing and can cause a lot more trouble than it helps. And like minorities and women, we've had to fight for our rights really hard. Like, we were not considered people until we started making it clear that we are people and we want the same rights as everyone else. Like, for example, like during the 60s, like in the South, like black people couldn't even sit in the front of the bus, and they had to protest it and not take the bus to make the company lose money and to make it equal rights to be able to sit wherever they want. And like nowadays, when the majority gets the vote, the minority gets downput, like how Prop 8 happened. Like, when it comes to any issues like that, when the majority gets the vote on that, they will definitely take out the minority. Majority overtakes the minority when it comes to votes. That is how it is similar to the rights, because back in the 1960s, if people got to vote whether if black people, interracial couples, are able to marry, or if, for example, if people could have the same rights as be able to drink out of the same drinking fountain or sit in the front of the bus, definitely it would have gone down by a long shot if it was voted on. So there are similarities between the issues of LGBT trying to get rights and of the racial and women's rights in the past. When it comes to the issue of same-sex marriage and interracial marriage, there are definitely a lot of similarities if you really research into it. Like, for example, back in the 60s and 70s when they were fighting this issue about interracial marriage, people were putting it down saying, like, somehow the Bible says not to mix other races together, and that's why we were all born in separate continents, which doesn't really make sense because we all started mixing the continents together when we all came together in America, right here. And also, in these issues, they try to state that it would confuse the children of what is right in a family, or what is a family, and why would you mix races together and confuse them that way. Well, put it this way, it's come again in this issue, except it's same-sex marriages, talking about, once again, focusing on the children and how it will affect them and confuse them about what marriage really is. And also, they always, of course, are going to use the Bible to support whatever they want. As I mentioned earlier, even slave owners somehow use the Bible to justify their beliefs, so there are similarities between the two. However, I cannot claim what it's like to be black. I know what it's like to be gay, however, I will never be able to claim what it's like to be a black person. I'm not black, obviously I am not black, and I will never know what it's like to be black, or know what it's like to walk into a store where somebody may judge you and make you think you're going to shoplift just because of your race. I will never know what it's like, and I do not claim to ever know what that's like. Like one of my friends says that I just recently talked to, she told me, like, how when she walks into a store, like, she will be judged by the way she looks, and how people will get on her case and assume that she's from the hood, and how she will probably steal from the store, and how security people will always watch her. And while when I walk in, people hardly notice I go in at all. She kind of explained to me, like, how sometimes people can be offended when compared to being gay, compared to being black, like with the term gay is the new black. Because technically I can walk into a store and they will never know that I'm a gay man unless I state it out loud. While if you are black and you walk into a store, it's obvious from the beginning when someone sees you that you are, what race you are. So I have to say that's the only difference, so that's the only way how it's not exactly the same. They're similar, but not exactly the same. Well anyway, that was my 2 cents on this topic. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye.